What is going down, Sourdough Squad? We got a very, very special guest coming to you today. We have 49ers right tackle Mike McGlinchey. First of all, Mike, how are you doing, man? How's your summer been? Congratulations on getting engaged. How has life been as of late?
Life's been pretty good. Yeah, summer's always, it's kind of, we were talking before the show started, but it's always kind of fun to try and find that balance. Me being from the East Coast, all of my family and friends and everybody that's important to me, other than our friends here, are all out there. So I use this, 6 weeks to train a little bit at home and try and get a relaxation down the Jersey Shore. And, got to see some of my college best friends, play some golf, and my best friend from high school actually just got married this past weekend. So that was a ton of fun to be around him and celebrate him and his now wife. They've been dating since they were in like the 7th grade. So it's like 20 years coming, and it was a really
You've been patiently waiting for that invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a fun weekend celebrating them, and it was definitely a great weekend to finish off the summer. But now it's we're a week out now, so we got to lock in and get ready to go.
Absolutely. We've been chomping at the bit, Mike. Like, we are so ready for training camp. We're ready to get our eyes on some real football, all that good stuff. But it's good to hear that you've been having a nice off season. But we're getting ready to that ramp up stage. We're getting back. Fans are going to be in attendance, all that good stuff. And of course, want to talk about how you're feeling, how the leg is feeling, and how you're ready to go for training camp. But before we get there, I actually kind of want to start at the beginning of where this all kind of started, because was it week 9 against Arizona? Was that when the quad tear unfortunately occurred? Just tell me about that moment, like when you felt it, like what you were thinking. Just kind of take us back to that moment, just from your perspective, just because obviously players get hurt all the time. This is I call it 100% guaranteed injury for this sport, because it's so contact related. Just what were you feeling in that moment, and just kind of just realizing that you just got hurt pretty bad?
Yeah, it was tough, but I don't think it really necessarily happened in week 9. I mean, it gave out in week 9, but I think I was dealing with it. I had small tendonitis. First 2 years in the league, you rehab it all off season, so you feel pretty good. And then last off season, I probably worked out a lot harder than maybe I should have, and tried to load the bar a little bit too much, and kind of didn't give myself that normal. Rehab stage, trying to get stronger, trying to get faster, and all that kind of stuff. And so I think probably it really started towards the end of camp, towards week 1. That is when the pain really started to kick in. But I was still able to go. I was still able to move and do all that kind of stuff. And then, finally in week 8 or 9, whatever week it was, November 7th was the game. You tend to remember dates that are pretty hard for you. But so. Yeah, it gave out in the the second quarter, start of the second quarter, maybe like the 18th, 20th play against Arizona. I sat down on a bull rush, and then I just kind of felt this disperse of pain in my leg, and I thought it was just another flare up of the same issue I was having. I thought I was going to be able to rehab it and be fine, but it was bad enough that day that I couldn't go back in the second half. And I thought to myself, everybody's texting me after the game, oh, how you feeling, everything. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably be okay. And then I realized the next day, when I couldn't really bend my leg anymore, and I had to ask, who is now my fiance, Brooke, to drive me into work. I was like, I think something's probably up now, because I can't. I've never had this feeling before. And so got the MRI and sat down in Dr. McAdams' office. And he told me I was done, which was the first time I'd ever dealt with that before. I missed 3-ish games in 19, but that was, that's like a drop in the bucket for that season, because we played about 20 of them, So yeah, it was a tough moment. I had never dealt with that before. I had never dealt with not being able to participate with my team for a number of weeks, and especially when we went on the run that we did after that. But yeah, so I had Dr. McAdams performed my surgery at Stanford on the 12th, that Friday, like 5 days later.
Right.
And I've been rehabbing ever since. And so I was finally cleared to like do some traveling and stuff like that towards the end of the season into the playoffs. And so I was able to be on the sidelines for the big run into the NFC Championship, which was a blast and so excited. You're always so excited for your teammates and the success that the coaches and the team is having. But a little bit of it just feels that hurt that you can't participate, especially on the biggest stage. So it's what we live our whole lives for. But it's been a growing experience. You got to learn patience, especially with a tendon. So it wasn't my quad muscle. It was the tendon that connects the quad to the kneecap. And so thankfully I was still like 5% attached. So it didn't recoil. The muscle didn't recoil up my leg, because that would have made rehab quite a bit harder. But so, yeah, it's been a long road and a lot of patience and a lot of, tough, dark times, but, and a lot of stress, but, here I am, just about 8-9 months later, and I'm ready to go for training camp. So, I'm excited. I'm back. I feel like I'm back. I feel like I'm, feeling stronger than I ever have. And I think I've been dealing with that issue for a number of years now. And I think it can only help me, looking at the silver lining is that I got a newly reconstructed knee, and there isn't that tendonitis in there as much. I mean, there's obviously still flare-ups when you work too hard coming off of a surgery. They say you never really feel like yourself until over a year has passed. So still, you got to, it's taught me a lot about, not becoming an old man, because I'm not quite there, but at 5 years for a lineman, 5 years for a lineman's a big milestone. And so you got to start, taking care of your body a little bit. You're not as much, you got to stay out of the college mindset a little bit more. You got to, so it's one of those things where I've learned a lot in this process of a lot of things that are going to hopefully help my career moving forward.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's been a wild journey. Obviously, when you have a severe injury, and it sounds like it was a slow burn too, like you had mentioned. So you've been playing all year, essentially with an injured quad tendon or in that vicinity, right?
Yeah, totally. So it was like this long process of not really being able to do much on Monday, Tuesday, and having to do treatment and not being able to work out the same way I was used to, because I couldn't, really squat or load my leg or, strengthen that. So I had to find different ways to do all that kind of thing. And, but yeah, it was a long road to just finally giving out. And the writing was kind of on the wall in the middle of that season there when, we finished up week 1 in Detroit. And that was when that was the first time, because it was the first game we played. So I hadn't exerted myself and exerted my leg that.
And you kind of really put it to the test, and you're like,
and we played like 70, 75 snaps in that game. And we got to the Greenbrier the next day, and I thought to myself, oh man, if this is how it's going to feel for the next 16 weeks, I'm going to be in a little bit of trouble. But I was able to, I was proud of the way I battled through it. I was proud of the way I played while on it. And, I made a lot of improvements in the game from the year prior and kept some of the strengths that I had, previously. And just unfortunately, because I was, and I talked to our O-line and our O-line coach and Kyle about this, I was just I kind of kept going this way in the way that I was playing, and to get it cut short in week 8 when you feel like you're starting to play your best ball. That's what's hard about this sport.
Oh man, that's got to be a mental grind, because also not only you going up against some of the best athletes in the world on opposing defensive lines, but you're like in the back of your head, like, like, I'm hurting a little bit, I'm a little sore, like I gotta kind of overcompensate a little bit and do some of those things when I'm going up against these guys, because ultimately, right, you're not trying to injure it further. So that's unbelievable. I had no idea that you played that year with that acting up throughout the course of it. So, and to your point, I love studying the offensive line, and I got to watch every one of your snaps last year, and I really do feel like you were playing great ball. And so to hear that you were playing that way while injured almost the entire course, and I agree with 100% of what you said. With it was like each game, it felt like it was just coming together more and more and more. You're going against Chandler Jones in that AZ game, stuffing him, like really good technique, mirroring him, doing all that kind of stuff. So that's crazy to hear that you were actually kind of injured in that situation, but also too, we spoke last year. Like you were very gracious with your time. We did our IG live last year, and you had said like I didn't have my best stuff in 2020, and big goal that you had was bouncing back. Um, I mean, you played, in my opinion, you played really, really well. We even had Joe Staley go on to a radio show, I think after the injury came down, and he said, quote, Mike was playing the best football of his career up until this point. Like you were playing really well. And again, you're still ascending, kind of like the team at that point, right? You guys were kind of trying to find your identity, trying to get things to stick. And that week 10 game against the Rams is what felt like when everything really kind of came together. So, how would you agree kind of with like what Joe Staley is saying? Like you were playing some of your best ball of your career and just really feel like you were, even with the injury, you were trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I would say I was doing a lot of things better and more consistently than I ever had in my career. And at times even you look back on things that of the things that you've gone through and struggled with. The way that I felt after 2020 and that the COVID stuff, moving to Arizona, having some bad struggles that I did. But when you truly go back and watch the tape, there's still a ton of things that I can pull from that I was doing, in my opinion, better than most of the league. And unfortunately, I had those, you have those really bad misses at really bad times, and that's what sticks with you.
People look at penalties and the misses, and then they're
right.
like, "That's how we evaluate O-line."
And as they should. And O-line's a position you got to pitch no hitters at, and that's the way. That's the standard. And I agree with all that, and I've come to terms with all that. But at the time, it felt like I had to kind of reinvent the wheel because of all the things that was happening in my head. Staying on my phone, and I've learned how to train myself out of that. And then when you go back, you're like, shit, there's things that I can still pull from that, even though there were things that I struggled with. Just like, there's things that I didn't like about last season that I still can improve, even though I did feel like I was playing way more consistently and way more productive. I thought, we got so much done in 2019, the Super Bowl year, that I came in, and that's when I felt like I was really catching my stride, and then things happen the way that they happen. And when you go through the struggles that I did, and when your expectations for yourself are just so high, I think that's where, you feel like the weight of the world's on your shoulders. And so the matter of, I think there's yes, to answer your question, I think I was much more productive last season. I think there's still things that I can do, and I know I'm going to do better, and just tying the whole thing together. I think that's part of the growth of this league, and it's part of the growth of the individual as a player, is to always see what you can improve on and continue to do so. Having 9.5, or I don't even know how long has it been since November. So I guess it's like almost 9 months to kind of reflect on what I can do and work on what I can do. And once I got cleared, the only thing in your mind, once I started getting cleared to run and to lift and all that kind of stuff, it was probably 2 or 3 months after surgery, that's a long time to not, when you're used to working out every day. And once you get that taste of it, you're like, all right, now I can improve this. I can improve my speed. I can improve my strength. I have the time to be able to work on things that I necessarily wasn't able to do because of, you get done the season in like late January for us last year. And a lot of the guys that I was already starting to train for the next season on November 8th, and so a lot of those guys, you only have 2.5 months until OTAs or 3 months till OTAs start. And so you so it truly was, the silver lining is that you take the time to learn and see what you can improve on and see what you need to do better and how you can fit that into your training to make your body do the things that you're going to require it to do, to be the size you need to be, to move faster than you did the year before, which, I'm still 27. So I still think I can still get myself physically better every single day. I'm not quite to the point of the O-lineman that,
totally beat down.
Well,
like
you never feel totally, you never feel totally beat down this time of year, but you got to take your training a little different. I can still push the limits with what I do. And I'm learning how to do that while also taking care of it, because I've learned at times this year, you think you're in the clear with your quad tendon and you're feeling good for a couple of weeks in a row. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to ramp it up even higher. When you do it too fast, that thing gets a little pissed off again, and you got to you got to slow it back down. And so that's been this constant cycle of understanding that stuff. And I'm as juiced up as I've ever been to be able to come out and compete in training camp and not, not only knock the rust off, but be better at what I was doing, the year prior. And I think I'm moving faster. I think I'm moving I'm as strong. I'm a little lighter than I was the year before. I think 320 was a little bit excessive. Getting back up that way. I think that's part of I think that's part of the reason why my knee was as bad as it was, is because I was loading so much weight on my back to squat and all that kind of stuff. And so you learn that there's this balance between, the Goldilocks zone, right? You got to do, make it just right. And that's what I've been able to figure out and do this time of the year, and try and peak right at this time. And so it's still going to be a grind. I'm still going to feel pain in camp. I know I'm going to have days where I don't feel that good. I know I'm going to have days where I feel better. But fortunately, we have a great staff at the 49ers with, director of player performance, Ben Peterson, and Dustin Perry, our head strength coach, and our head trainers, Dustin Little and Ryan Donahue, Manny Rivera, all these people that put this plan in place to be able to get you to peak, not only now, but when the time comes in week 1 against Chicago. So it's a slow ramp up, I think, and just to get my legs back underneath me to play some ball again and feel the load of people running India, driving people off the ball, and trying to, and being able to be the best athlete that I can be. And so I'm excited for this opportunity. And, and that's what it is. It's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to come back from one of the lowest points of your. Now, I wouldn't say it's the lowest point in my life, right?
It's just really difficult.
It's part of my job,
through
right?
An injury
I've accepted that fate that football will bring you. It hurts you, but it's at the same time, it's an opportunity to come back from a low point in my career. When like you said, you feel like you're starting to go this way and starting to really find yourself. And now you got to reinvent yourself just one more time. And I think it'll always be that battle, no matter how long I play. And that's what's exciting for me.
Absolutely. But it does sound like the rehab process since November has been trending in the right direction. You said you're going to be ready for training camp, right? What does that look like? Is it a day one ready to rock 100%? Is it a slow ramp up? Kind of what is your process for getting ready to get the pads back on and get back into the action so you can keep taking those steps forward?
So the plan it's always kind of evolving, right? So these last 2 weeks has kind of been a testing period for me. I've included a lot more football into my training rather than, taking off that sprint thing that we've all been, everybody's seen our off seasons, going on. So you start doing less about your athleticism and more about how you still do that stuff, but you do a little bit less of it and start throwing football more into the pot. And so the way that your knee responds to that and how you can recover, can you go harder the next day? Those are all the things we're still figuring out. And I've been trending in the right direction. So, I don't know if it'll be like 100% every rep I'm taking first couple weeks, but I'm going to be 100%. I'm going to go 100%. Whether or not I take all the team reps, I'm not sure. That's not up to me. Fortunately, there's a lot smarter people than me making plans for us. And that's where Kyle and our staff is so cool, is that they're not just old school jughead football coaches. They listen to the people that know what they're doing. And that's
They
where
just
you
don't
see,
push you to the limit every
yeah,
single
and that's where you see guys like Bosa, who came off with the same kind of thing last year,
right.
come back and should, obviously the comeback player of the year thing is what it is, but
He
to
gets
come
snubbed.
to come back, no, I mean, you can't snub when Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl, but
Good point. But those 15
but
and a
to
half
not get
sacks
a
were
vote
impressive.
to not get a vote's kind of crazy, because the guy was top 3 in the league in sacks, and he plays more complete football than anybody, and I think that plays on the edge. But
I think he was the most double teamed
yeah,
defensive
so
end. He's
I think,
constantly owed.
but yeah, that's where but Bosa is a great example of what our team is capable of, and they don't throw you right into the fire. They make sure you just continue to get better and better and better, as long as you're willing to put in the work with them. And that's what's and I couldn't be more thankful and grateful for our staff, because I'm not a very patient person, and everybody's been so hands on and so instructional. And even when I'm a smart ass to ask why I'm doing something, they have an answer that makes sense. And that's why I buy in. And that's why, I chose to do my surgery with our team and our rehab with our team. And I've been, and, I think these people have saved my career. So it's pretty cool. The relationships that you build in hard times, right?
Absolutely. Well, I know it's been a tough road. I know it's not discussed enough, not only the physical toll it takes, but the mental toll, and how it's kind of a comorbid situation where you're working on both at the same time and just building back the foundation in which you used to have. So I know that's a process, and it sounds like you've attacked it. Sounds like things are progressing in the right direction, and it's like we saw with Bosa too. When Bosa came back last year, I don't think Bosa participated in any team periods. And that's kind of par for the course, and just a slow build as the season progresses. Obviously, each rehab process is individual to each player. So I'm sure you guys have a phenomenal plan and how things are progressing. Sounds like everything's moving. And we've seen the videos. We saw you moving. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. We heard that like, oh, there's a 50% chance. Like that was the big thing. There's a 50% chance Mike might not be able to come back. And I'm not gonna lie, Mike. I was like, what? I was like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who got that information, but that was
I don't
never.
know either, but it started to spread, and I'm not gonna lie, playing a little. I was like, no, that can't be true. Like, we
Yeah, I
need.
mean, those things kind of happen. Like you see it with everything that happens with our football team. There's dramatic responses to just about everything. We're not even going to get into all that, but I
No.
don't know where that information came from. Nobody ever told me that information.
Okay, good.
But
Good.
I was very confident from the first day that I was coming back, that I was going to be back better than I was before. So,
Absolutely.
and that's all you can ever ask for, right?
Yep. And so when we saw those videos, you saw you. So the sweet spot's about 310, right? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
somewhere
feeling?
between 305 and 310 is right where I want to be, and that's where I'm right, and that's where I've maintained for the last 6 months or so. And I obviously, you lose a little bit of weight when you're coming off of surgery and not able to move and all that kind of stuff. But I've put a lot of work in to maintain that, and that's where I'm at, and that's where I'll play.
Absolutely, man. Looking good. I do want to uh, reach out to some of we call ourselves the Sourdough Squad here, the SDS. So we got some of the SDS chiming in. Want to say what's up. So I want to give them an opportunity to get involved. We got Chris Royal saying, Mike, glad you're healing up. Can't wait to see you and Trent bully some defensive linemen this year. Let's get it. We got some other SDS members saying, "Let's go, boys! Mike is the man." I see no lie there.
That's Cam. That's my barber, man. He's the one
Oh,
that's keeping me
we
clean.
were talking about Cam before we got on
Yeah.
here. I was like, "Hey, man, Mike's beard's looking good. I'm looking a little haggard out here. I might need to go see Cam."
Go see Cuts by Camera, man. That's his Instagram handle. He's been my barber for 5 years now in the Bay. He's the best out there.
Oh, I love it. I think I need to go visit, especially
Yeah.
with camp coming up. We got Gammon saying, Mike, thank you for supporting autism awareness. Talk a little bit about that and why that means a lot to you.
So my younger brother Jimmy, he's my fifth sibling out of six. He was diagnosed with autism when he was
I
about
didn't know
2
you
years.
had 6 siblings.
Yeah, my youngest brother Tom's only
Big house.
15. Yeah, so we're deep, the McGlinchey clan, and but yeah, my younger brother Jimmy is was diagnosed with autism when he was about 2 years old, and he's been the light of our family, and the things that people have done for him to help him along the way is just been an inspiration to us. And so we try to do everything, my mom just went back into special education after Jimmy and had so much growth with, early intervention and all that kind of stuff when he was young. And so that's what she does now. She kind of ran right into that path. And, you just try to do everything you can to help those group of people, because I think they're the biggest blessings on earth, man. There's nobody happier than those guys, and the support that they've given me is only a fraction or what I can do for them is only a fraction of what they do for me. So it's a big part of our life. It's a big part of my family's life, and try to do that as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the coolest things from my training camp experience last year was seeing the group of kids and guys that you brought to come experience camp, and you brought the whole offensive line over, and you guys interacted. That was really cool, dude. Like I was sitting in the stands, and I was like, man, this is a cool moment. And so it's really cool that, again, you continue. You did some work with the Special Olympics, I believe, earlier this off season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to see all that good stuff, man. It really, really is. We got Brian, aka Cap, saying, "What up, Mike? The Sourdough Squad welcomes you into our humble abode. Excited to see you bounce back. Go Niners." We got everyone's. I mean, a lot of good vibes in the chat right now, and I'm loving to see it, because you have been such an important piece to this entire team since you got here. So I'm really happy to hear that things are progressing in the right direction. And I kind of did want to kind of circle back to last season a little bit, because you talked about it. You hinted at it a little bit. You talked about how it was tough, to be on the sidelines or be in the box or wherever you were as the team started kind of corrected and really just made feels like a storybook run there at the end, right? Where it comes down to the last game. You got all the dramatics. Trent Williams has to go out for the game. Colton McKivitz has to step up at left tackle. You have Ambry Thomas making the game-sealing interception. And then the magical run into the playoffs obviously cut a little bit short. But all in all, just a phenomenal season with tons of roller coaster rides. Do you feel like the team is positioned to still be extremely competitive this season? The defense is stacked. Obviously, there's a couple pieces new on the offensive line, new quarterback, things like that. But do you feel like everything feels like there's a lot of lessons to be learned last year for the group, and just kind of building on top of that for next season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a ton of things to build on. I think there's a ton of things to take from last season, but there's also a lot of new guys on our team. There's a lot of new guys, at all phases, whether it's depth, to get depth on our team, to be a new starter on our team, to whatever. I think every new season, every NFL season, you never know what's going to happen. And I think last year was a perfect example of that. I think last year when we came in, everybody thought we were going to be a division winner favorite, a top seed favorite. And then you start the season like 3-6 or 3-5 or whatever we started the season at. And nobody expected that from us, I don't think. And we didn't expect that for ourselves. But at the same time, that's what makes the NFL the greatest league on earth, is that, you win 9 out of 10 to get to the playoffs, and you win 9 out of 10, and then you win 2 playoff games that are just absolutely unbelievable hallmark moment football games that you're so proud of your guys for hanging in and battling until the clock strikes 0. And that's kind of the romanticism of football, and it's kind of the romanticism of our league. You never quite know, but yes, if you're never confident about going in of where you're at, starting the season, I don't think you should be playing. There's always things to be looking forward to. There's always things to be excited about. There's always things to prove, not only to yourself, but the team has to prove to the rest of the world. And I think that's what's really exciting. But yeah, I think we have as good of a chance as anybody. I think we always do from the top down. I think, we just have, I think we have all the pieces of the right organization from the top to the last guy on the roster. And I'm very fortunate to have been here for, going on my 5th year now. And we've been competitive almost every time. And whether it's injuries derail you or whether it's you just got to keep fighting that fight. And I think 2 out of the last 3 years we've been one of the last 4 standing. And there's a reason for that. And I think there's a lot of guys on our team with a lot of resilience. There's a lot of coaches on our team with a lot of resilience, starting with our head ball. And I think it's like I said, I think we got as good of a chance as anybody to do it. But you just got to prove it week in and week out, day in and day out, starting July, 26th, which is next week.
Absolutely. Ooh, training camp is right around the corner. So there was a play at training camp that stood out to me. You might not even remembered it. I'm going to ask about it, and if you don't remember it, no big deal. But there was this particular rep. I can't remember if it was team period or not, but it was you versus D Ford, and D Ford was really taking those strides in camp and looking really good out there and showing that speed again and looking really good. And I remember I was watching you and D. I was like, "Oh, get your popcorn ready. Like, this is going to be a really good rep." And I just remember you snapped out of your kick step. You got into position, pad level, everything was, and you just kind of stoned him. And I just remember the whole offense like going crazy, like, "Oh, let's go." Do you remember that? Like, was that an impactful play to you? Obviously, if you remember, it might be, but I don't know if you remember that singular play out of all the plays of training camp.
I remember. I don't remember that play specifically. No, because like you said, there's training camp. There's not many memorable. You don't try to remember. Right. Training camp's not about remembering wins, right? It's about remembering the process and how you get better and using your technique and learning from each rep. And that's something that D always did, man. And when it's training camp, when he knows your kid, because you play against each other every day, he knows what cadence you're using. He gets to sneak up. Just there's this like big. Third down period where the D line takes that extra half of an inch, probably lining up off sides, and the Rent-A-Cop officials aren't going to say anything about it, and everybody wants to win.
I like that.
You got to be really efficient in training camp. Yeah. You're exposed so much more, and it's so much harder to win, especially against guys like Bosa or D or Eric or whoever's over there, because when defenses know you and they play against you every day, the advantage goes to them. And I think that's what's so great about training camp and going up against talent like we have, is that you learn how to do those reps and you learn how to figure out how to try and be as perfect as you can be, because it all has to come together on Sundays. And you bank those reps, you bank how you felt when you were struggling, you bank how you feel when you're doing well, and you try and mimic the good shit as much as you can. And that's what, one of those reps is cool. D certainly handed me my ass numerous times in training camp as well, but that's great. You're going to win, you're going to lose, you're going to take some one-on-ones that aren't really realistic drills, but everybody, that's all people know how to measure offensive line play by is one-on-one wins. Right. But so that's you're exposed in training camp. And that's where, you get to cut it loose and do the best that you can and use the techniques that you're being taught and sharpen your tool bag for when the season comes, because it doesn't get any harder than a team pass.
Going up against a Nick Bosa and a D Ford who know exactly what your tendencies are and has been studying you as themselves, and you're just like, all right, let's go.
So I was taught a long time ago that true offensive linemen and true offensive line play is judged in the obvious situations, right? When it's obvious pass, when it's obvious run, when it's 3rd and 1 and everybody in the stadium knows you're running a dive or you're running an ISO, whatever it is, or 2-minute drill, 3rd and long, and everybody in the stadium knows you need to throw this ball to get it done. And so you're going to get the defender's best stuff. And so that's where that's what you're training for all the time. You're training for the obvious situations and those team pass periods when everybody in the stadium or everybody at practice knows that you're passing the ball. That's training you for the hardest moment you're going to see on Sundays or Thursdays or sometimes Saturday, when Mondays, whatever. The NFL plays on almost every day.
Strap them up.
Yeah. So whenever you get out there, and that's where you got to bank those reps constantly, and you go back to it. You never try and, because things get a little screwed up technique wise. We always joke we have these scars, right? You get scarred from a miss in a bad situation.
They stick with you.
Yeah, so those stick with you more than the wins, and that's part of the whole mental process of being a pro athlete. Is that you gotta be able to dispose of those, and that's where getting your ass kicked in training camp is a really, really good tool to learn and to figure out how you feel emotionally, what you screwed up technically, and how to blend those two things together to be able to be confident in those situations, to be able to cut it loose and not think about failure and not think about those things. And that's where, I thought I took my biggest step last year, was in those obvious situations. You didn't see an erratic set. You didn't see an erratic lunge at somebody. So just got to keep building on that with a new knee, a new healthier knee, and the same mental, kind of performance that you put on.
That's profound, man. I'm a big O-line guy, and that's a great point. Like when it's the obvious down and it's an obvious situation, that the defense, like you said, they're coming at you with everything. It's a 3rd and 7. You gotta have a first. You're split out. Everyone's wide. You got no running back to chip, no tight end to chip. You're on an island, and I like that.
Yeah, because nobody's going to remember what you did, how much you kicked somebody's ass on 2nd and 5, right? Nobody remembers that. And that's what's frustrating. That's the most frustrating thing about playing offensive line or playing defensive back. I think defensive back is the only other one that has to do what we do, right? You can't miss. And when you miss in an obvious situation, that's when the Twitter comments come, the Instagram comments come, and everybody thinks you suck.
Everyone's jumping in the DMs what the hell, man?
What about the other 72 plays that I put, But like I said, offensive line play is judged in the obvious situations. And if you don't come up in obvious situations, you're not going to be considered one of the best. And so that's where you got to continue to make those strides and continue to do the things that I've been working on, which is, really cool.
That is great perspective. I freaking love that. I'm stealing that one. I'm adding that to the tool belts when we talk about offensive line. Definitely love that. A couple more SDS guys dropping in. Kenneth says, I'm sitting here with two of my favorite dudes that have autism and Down syndrome. Their names are Rick and Brandon. They wanted to tell Mike to have a great and safe season.
Thanks, guys.
Love that. Let's see. I think we got a couple in here. I think Niner Gang says, hope all is well, Mike. Will you be ready for the season? Awesome show. I think we talked about that a little earlier. You're trending in the right direction. So
totally.
As we continue forward, it's again, take it step by step, but by all accounts, sounds like we're going in the right direction. I got to talk about Trent Williams a little bit.
Happy birthday to Trent, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Happy birthday. And Spencer Burford. And the rookie, Spencer Burford. I forgot this year. Found out this year birthday.
It's crazy. Yeah. I got my Trent Williams jersey right here. Like,
it's a good jersey to have.
I really feel like he's helping kind of redefine, in a sense, maybe more nuanced sense of kind of how the position can be played. Obviously, Trent is a unicorn, and how do you compare Trent to really anyone? Because he's just so different. But I was watching some film last night. I saw I feel like he has this little hand bait thing that he does, where it almost like you kind of leave your hands out there, and when the D line goes to initiate, you kind of redirect and then re-engage. I saw Trent. I've seen that from Trent, and I saw you do it, and I was like, did Trent did that translate from Trent to Mike? Because I was like, I've only seen Trent do that. Granted, I only studied the 49ers offensive line, but I was like, is there some overlap there? Was I seeing that correctly?
Without a doubt. Yeah. So, like you said, Trent is a unicorn, and Coach Firster constantly is reminding people, hey, do what I'm coaching you to do, because it's really hard to do what he's doing to other people, because you have to be that athlete. You have to be that smart. You have to know when to time it up. And Trent has all that. And I don't think Trent gets enough credit for how smart he is on the football field, because of people, all they see is they see the incredible power and athleticism and balance and all those things that scouts just salivate over on a draft grade report or whatever. But Trent's played a lot of football, and the things that he's picked up along the way have been invaluable to not only me but the rest of our group. It's why he's a captain of our team. It's why he's had so much success. And the things that you're seeing, people don't, and that's why D linemen look like idiots half the time, when they try to play run game against Trent, because he can play hand games with you that nobody else can really do. He doesn't just, technically run on the same angle. He changes things up throughout the middle of a game. And that's where in like the fourth quarter or a 2-minute drill, the guy doesn't have as much of a plan and he's not as confident coming off the ball. And that's why Trent has been the most successful tackle of our generation. And I think it's been invaluable to me in times when I'm struggling in training camp or in the middle of the season. And I'm like, hey, what do you got for me? Or we sit close by, we sit, across the little median in our O-line room together, and we look at each other and we say something. Hey, I liked what you did there. Like, what were you thinking? Or he's like, hey, Mike, try this. And it's cool because he's open to, communication, and not only, hey, like I saw something that I can give you, or think, or how do you, when he first got here, like I was 3 years into our zone scheme and he hadn't done it in a while. And he's like, what's he talking about when you're talking about this thing? Mm-hmm. And so that's been the evolution of Trent and I's relationship has just gotten better and better, just because there's just been so much more respect that's grown. But he does some stuff, man, that blows your mind out there. And it's been a great honor of my career to be his teammate now for the third season, to have him, see how he, mentors young guys, somehow I've become like the second oldest guy in our room, and
you blink really quick. Also,
that happened very fast, so I can't necessarily be considered a young guy, but he's still like 7 or 8 years my senior, so I'm still young to him. And he's an unbelievable teammate, and like I said, he does not get enough credit for how much he knows about the game, how much he knows about scouting defensive linemen and we go through our reports every week about each player, and he's like, hey, Mike, if you see this happen if you can watch the film over again and see this, here's what he's trying to do. And he's helped me prepare in a lot of ways, and I hope he feels the same way about me. But he's one of one, man, and he'll go straight into Canton as soon as this thing's over, whenever he decides to hang it up, because it just seems like he's getting better. So you don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but so whenever he decides he's finished, he'll have a gold jacket on as soon as he's eligible. So he's
walking into Canton at this
point. Yeah, no doubt. There's not many offensive linemen like him. There certainly hasn't been in a long time, and we're very, very fortunate to have Trent. And like I said, it's only helped my career.
Does he kind of attack the game a little bit, kind of like a defensive lineman mentality, like where it's
in terms of
kind of gaming up the D line, like you mentioned? Like, I think I've heard him talk about, like, he'll down block really hard, really fast, take as fast a step as he can to get the defensive lineman to jump that. But in the same time, his second rep then becomes more of a off approach, and then he uses, I don't know what it's called, it's like a club snatch move where he hammers down and then grabs the back and they just fold it. Like, I feel like that's a defensive lineman thing, like where they try to set you up with outside speed, counter inside move when they get you to open your gate. It feels very similar, like he's pushing you one direction and then he like counters it, and then at that point, the D-line like, oh, I don't know what to do at this point.
Well, that's his whole goal. And that's why I think that is why he's one of the greatest, is because you can't get a feel for how he plays. And sometimes you're like sitting there and you're like, I don't really like that set. But then you're like, oh, he's doing that on purpose. Mm-hmm. It's so that you don't get the same technique. You don't get the same step, here comes the hand, step, here comes the hand. Or in the run game, you're not just trying to cut him off so he can play behind you, or he gets that feel and timing in the third or fourth quarter because he's felt you for 20, 50 plays already. And like I said, it's only beneficial when they need their best stuff and they don't have a plan. because they don't know which way he's going to approach this game, and that's where I've grown to watch him, and I understand his the more you're around him, the more you understand his approach, and I think that's what's so cool. But again, that's where everybody's reminded, hey, remember to do what I'm coaching you to do, and if you can, if you feel 100% about taking a chance, do it. But remember, like, you got to tell a rookie that's thinking that, oh, that's how you do that. No, it's not. That's only him. You know what I mean?
Get the fundamentals down first, then build on top of the fundamentals. Don't go full Trent Williams right away.
No, but that's what makes him the best, man. Is that he can play you so many different ways and still win. And where, you know, my game, I play as much technically sound football as I possibly can. And there's just so many different ways to skin the cat, and that's where it's but that to have those little nuances in your repertoire and your tool belt only benefits you throughout the course of a game.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, I really do appreciate your time. You've been gracious. Can I ask you a couple more questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll get you out of here, because again, you've been so generous with your time. The chat's loving it. It's really great to just talk to players. Get to hear from you guys just from a different perspective, right? Because at a certain point, it's like you guys are a number in a helmet at a certain point.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's nice to kind of break through that and here's some of your perspective that you have. And so far, it's beautiful to hear some of the things that you've been working through, which again aren't easy, but it sounds like you have a great mentality and things are progressing in the right direction. So again, can't thank you enough for your time. So I'll get it wrapped up here pretty soon.
You're all
good. I think, let me see. I'll transition because I do want to get my guys in here as much as I can and kind of transition into a question. Wayne, my guy, Wayne Breezy says, it's good to have you back and healthy. He's saying, how will the loss of Laken Tomlinson and Alex Mack affect the offensive line? I kind of want to spin that question a little bit in the sense of just how important was Alex Mack last year? Of course, Laken as well, but Alex got dropped into the offensive line that was, Trent, Laken, Brunny, you, and it felt like he was that glue piece. We talked about Weston Richburg and how important he was in 2019. Just talk a little bit of how important Alex Mack is, and of course, the Iron Man, Laken Tomlinson, who I think only misses snaps if his shoes come off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to answer this question, it's going to be very hard to replace two Pro Bowl level players, obviously, but I think we're very confident that we have the ability and the depth in our room to be able to pull the weight. Everybody's always panicked, but there's, just because you're unproven at something doesn't mean you're not.
The uncertainty scares people.
It doesn't mean you're not damn good at it. And we got guys in our room that can really fill those spots and that can play well. Obviously, it's to be determined. But Laken and Alex were a huge piece of what we did. It was, I think two of the great players in football. Alex, which was cool because I didn't see Alex from him, not necessarily the prime of his career because he was still playing high level football, but the way that he approaches his game to change because he was 37 years old and how cerebral he was and how much he could learn and see things on the defensive side of the ball and how he would go back and forth with Coach Furster about things that we could try and do differently. And so that was invaluable, an invaluable experience because he is such a concentrated football player that it only made us all better by having him kind of connect both sides on the same page. And he took a lot of pride in always being on his own shit that everybody else made everybody else's job easier. And then, like you said, Laken never missed snaps for us, never missed games for us, and always played at an extremely high level. It's going to be very hard to replace the two of them. But I think we're confident in the guys that we have that we can really get it done.
Absolutely. So Alex I'm a Cal fan, so I've known about Alex for a long time. He's one of the guys that I first started looking up to. So he will be missed, but we got guys like Brendel. We got guys like Aaron Banks who are going to come in and fill those roles. Obviously, they've got a lot to prove, but there's a lot of talent there. And so there's a lot of optimism, at least from my perspective. I know a lot of people get focused on, well, we don't know. I feel pretty, I feel optimistic about them, what they can do with the O line and how they can grow. Um, I want to talk a little bit about Javon Kinlaw because you guys spend a lot of time together, right? Like you guys are both
Yeah.
based here, you both train here.
Mhm.
Has your guys' relationship kind of developed, and what have you seen from Javon? Because I've had him on, we had great conversation. Um, I'm really excited about it. It just felt like he had a lot of good energy, a lot of good vibes coming from his process and where he's coming from. It feels like he's ready to go.
Yeah, so Javon, it's been pretty much just me and Javon since January, and in the weight room. He came back towards the end of the season, right as I was kind of getting ready to travel. I think he was in LA for a little bit of the first part of his rehab. I'm not quite sure, so I can't really, don't quote me on that.
Mhm.
But when he got back, he hit the ground running, man. I couldn't. I say this to a lot of people that ask me that question. I couldn't be prouder of him in the way that he's developed, not only his physical sense and the way he's trained, but how he's become such a pro. And he's there every single day at the same time, putting his work in as hard as he can and competing with me, competing with everybody else that's training there, and being so diligent about his career because, when you're young and you don't really understand it, I went through the same things. You don't necessarily think about the things that you need to think about after coming off of a big time surgery and having your kind of career being a little bit of an unflux situation. But Javon has been an unbelievable training partner. He and I have pushed each other every day. I've never seen a human being look like him. Like he
He's
is
massive.
yeah, he's a freaky looking, like in the best way possible.
Right. Football
Yeah,
sense, like,
yeah,
we called him we came away with the nickname the Barbarian, when we were talking to him. I was
yeah.
like,
Well,
"That
he'd
seems
be
pretty
that. He can be
cool."
whatever you want to call him, but he's gearing up for a hell of a year. Um, Unbelievably motivated, unbelievably determined to prove that he's a great football player, which we all know he is already. And the maturity that he's shown in this last year or so, I could not be prouder of him. I couldn't be prouder that he was the guy that I did my rehab with because of the developments. We kind of checked milestones at the same time. We celebrated at the same time. We were there every single day together, grinding, listening to the same music, doing the whole thing, and expect big things from Javon. I think he's going to have an unbelievable year. He's ready to go, and again, couldn't be prouder of him and the way that we both have worked together because we both struggle with a lot of the same stuff at the same time, and not knowing what's going to happen with your body and your career and everything like that, and long, dark days of January when it's only you and him in the building because everybody else is kind of taking their vacation because they just
Right.
finished the season, but you're already in the second month of your off-season training, and it's been cool. It's been very cool. He and I have gotten close. We run things off of each other all the time. We joke around all the time, and very excited to see what he can do. And I know he will say the same about me, which is the best feeling ever because you feel like you've gained, a comrade and a brother and things like that. And
Right.
when you necessarily wouldn't have felt the same way if you weren't in the same situation together. And I think that's the beauty of this game. It's the beauty of football, and it's the beauty of struggle. It brings people together. And now Javon's ready to go. I saw him. We were competing in some sprint stuff today. Saw him doing some individual stuff,
Let's go.
and I think we're both primed and ready to have a hell of a year.
I'm very excited, man. I'm excited for both of you guys. Energy from both of you guys seems really high, seems really positive. Obviously, especially where you're coming from, where there's a lot of dark days, and being able to kind of keep moving in the right direction for both of you guys. It's cool that you kind of have that and have developed that kind of ability to kind of lean on each other in a sense, right? Like, hey, we're both going through the same. We may play different positions, we might be in different rooms, but we're on the same team, and we're both trying to get back to be the best we can be.
Totally, and we've become each other's biggest fan because you know what's going on. You get so excited to see somebody hit a PR on a sprint rep or a PR on a big lift, and that goes a long way. And it goes a long way for the support that we both felt when we were both kind of unsure about what was going to happen. And you know, it's been a lot of fun. Been a very fun ride. You know, obviously not fun doing rehab, but fun the way that we did it with Javon and I, and it's something that I'll appreciate for probably the rest of my career, because who knows where I'd be if I didn't have somebody else pushing me.
That's awesome, man. Because I can imagine it could get lonely in that training room in the middle of January and February if you're by yourself. So totally can understand that. And again, appreciate your time. I got just a couple more questions.
Take your time, dude. It's all good.
I wanted to talk about you and Brunskill. I really felt like, at least in what I studied and watched from last season, like I'm big continuity guy when it comes to the offensive line. I recognize it's not just you. It's like a team within the team, and then you got your kind of like groupings within that, your guard, tackle, your center guards, and how that translates. I feel like you and Brunskill, when it came to stunts, when it came to blitzes, when it came to passing defensive linemen off, you guys were like, it's like you knew. And I think also too, on top of that, almost after every single play, no matter what the play was, you guys turn and are talking to each other. And it was one of the small nuances that I noticed, but I'm like, that feels like that translates into why these guys are so good at passing things off, because it's kind of like zone in basketball, right? You kind of control your zone and they try to bait you into biting and going full bore, but you have to be able to, once you kind of feel him move, and you got to kind of pass him off, right? Felt like you guys really were able to grow together. And also too, I feel like that was Brunskill's like first dedicated year of only playing right guard. Just talk about like what you've seen from Brunskill and just kind of like how your guys' relationship of just playing together has kind of gone.
Yeah, so Dan and I have been together. I think this is our fourth season together. So yeah, he was not here our rookie year, but came the next year, and my rookie year. I think Dan's one of the smartest football players I've ever played with. I think he is unbelievable at seeing things. He's unbelievable at communicating it while, like you said, while you're on the field. You can fix things while it's happening. And he's very, 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 very good. And people, they don't appreciate the things that go on in an offensive line thing. So they just try to place blame wherever the hell they want to place blame. I've been the victim of that. Everybody else on our offensive line has been the victim of that.
I've been taking punches trying to be like, no, that's not how it is.
Dan is a strong and great football player, and a lot of it comes from his ability to study and how bad he wants it. A lot of it comes from how technically sound he is. And like you said, last year was really the only year that he played one position. He has been invaluable to us in saving our ass so many different times because of him playing left tackle, right tackle, center, right guard. I think the only position he hasn't played for us is left guard. And he started a game at every single other one of those positions. I don't think people understand how hard that is to do, and understand the complete nature of what you need to do at each position, because it changes every position you go out. And so the center's different than the guard's different than the tackle, and the way you process information at all those different spots. And that's what's so impressive about Dan. And I'm excited for him to get back and get going. I thought he had a really strong year last year, and our relationship's great. We have a great working relationships. We're obviously good friends off the field. But yeah, it's a joy to play with Dan. It's a lot of fun. He makes my job easier. He can see things. He points things out a lot that makes us both better. And he's got an open line of communication when you need him to do something different. And that's all you can ask for from a guard and tackle relationship. And he and I have played a lot of football together. We've been on the same line for a long time. And a number of starts, and I value that greatly, and it's only going to continue to get better for he and I. The more we continue to play together, and the more we get stronger and communicate, and I'm excited to play. I miss playing with Dan. I missed it on the last 8 or 9, or I guess almost 11 games last year, and I'm excited to get to do it again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if you guys have historically pulled more, or last year was just like you were pulling the guards more. I know Mike McDaniel and Kyle were straight up cooking it. I was like, what are we doing here? You're pulling juice across the formation and you're like countering a guard on the other side. Then your Jeff Wilson comes across the formation. Like some of the things that was getting cooked up was phenomenal, but I felt like Brunskill's ability to pull was really a big linchpin and able to allow all that stuff to go with, like, Kittle on the outside and of course Juice and all those guys. So it's been really fun to seeing the offense evolve. And I am curious to get your thoughts on how you think the offense is going to evolve into this year. Obviously, there's the big talking point, amongst the 49ers community. You already know what's coming.
Yep.
You already know what's coming. But of course, there's going to be a transition, or at least it feels that way. It's not defined yet, but Trey Lance, obviously going into his second year. I think you were one of the first guys to meet him in the building when he showed up after he was drafted. What have you seen from Trey from that time when you meet him? I think you were like in the equipment room. You met him in the equipment room, to the guy that you just saw at OTA's minicamp and getting ready for training camp. Just talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think first and foremost, I give Trey a ton of credit for the way he handled last year. I think it takes a lot from a young guy that's 20, 21 years old to have the maturity to handle what he was thrown into last year, and it wasn't his fault at any point, and all this controversy that surrounded him and Jimmy and all that stuff. I think that it takes a ton of maturity to not make it about you, and to make it to just be like, I need to find ways to get myself better and find a way to help this team in any way that I can. And I think that the way that he handled that whole situation, especially when you start 3-5 or you start 3-6, and everybody's saying like what's going to happen. Right. He didn't ever make it about him. He didn't ever say, I'm the guy, give me the reins, like anything like that. He trusted the process. He trusted our coaches, and he made sure he was a good teammate first, which not a lot of guys have that anymore, which I think is incredibly appreciated. And from guys like me who've been around and trust a lot of the guys in our locker room, I think first and foremost, that was one of the most impressive things to me about Trey. And then this offseason came, and he shows who he really is, and takes command of this locker room, takes command of this offense, takes command of this team. I'm so excited for him and whatever happens. But he's the sky's the limit for Trey. I think he's got every tool in the toolbox and unmatched athleticism to back it up too. And that's what's cool, and that's what's again, we talked about it earlier. It's like everybody worries about these uncertainties. Every other day there's some report about something going on with Trey or something going on with Jimmy.
The arm fatigue. Have you ever heard of arm fatigue? Like, is that a thing?
I don't know. But again, he handles that with such grace, and all he just continues to do is work. And he calls his teammates. He supports his teammates. He hypes up his teammates. And he's an impressive dude, man. And I think the football thing's only just getting started for him. But first and foremost, the dude that he is what's more impressive to me.
And that's awesome to hear. I think that's been a pretty common theme when you hear any of the players in the locker room kind of talking, being asked these questions, because it's obviously become just like the whole quarterback position for the San Francisco 49ers. It doesn't matter who it is.
It feels like the PGA Tour versus Live. It's just like every day there's something new going on, and you're just like, hey, can we just play? Can we just do our job,
Bro, being in the content grind, it's unbelievable, because obviously I'm collecting and I'm trying to see what we should be sharing with the fan base, and it's just like, oh my God, it's every day. It literally is every day. It's a new thing. It's a new, like, it's just like, oh my God, like we remember this kid's like, I call him a kid, and I don't mean that out of disrespect. He's 22 years old, so he's still got a lot of growth left in NFL standards. So it's wild how things go, but it does sound like he handled things well. Because considering the circumstances last year. And it does feel like maybe a little bit of weight has been lifted off, and he can kind of blossom into the leader that, everyone believes he can be. And that's kind of sounds like where it's headed. Obviously, we'll see how that works out in training camp and how everything works into the season. But sounds like Trey has handled everything as well as he could have, considering the circumstances, right? So that's awesome to hear. Obviously, 49er fans are chomping at the bit. They got their swords out. They're like fighting back and forth. They're like all this stuff. So we're just ready to get football. And of course, training camp is right around the corner. So we're super excited to hear that you are trending in the right direction. You are getting back on track. Sounds like you're good mentally, physically. You've hit the milestones that you've wanted to hit. Obviously, all rehab processes come with some setbacks and little things here or there. But in the grand scheme of things, sounds like you're feeling pretty good about where Mike McGlinchey is at right now heading into training camp, correct?
For sure. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's funny because you're like, you have this scale of like how ready you are to when things start up and how excuse me, anxious you get for certain things to go on. And it's one of those things, it's an uncertainty, right? Like I'm certain that I've put in the work and I've put in the time and I've worked as hard as I physically can to make sure I am ready to go. But it's the first time I've ever come off this kind of a thing. And so it's like, all right, I just got to prove it day by day. And it truly puts you in such a process state, which is honestly, it's where everybody tells you to be in. And it's so true.
The more kind of get out of the emotions a little bit, right?
Yeah. And so when it truly locks you into every single day, every single rep, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? How does it feel doing this? So the process has been unbelievable. I've been so excited. And that's what gives me the confidence going into training camp and the study that I put in the film and the stuff that where I can improve in the game. How can I do something in my training that helps me do this in the game? And I'm excited to get it going and show, not only myself, but everybody else that I'm ready to go and ready to be hopefully one of the best tackles in this league.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And you already know, Mike, I believe in you and I believe that you're made of the right stuff. So I'm looking very forward to this season, looking very forward to how everything progresses. And of course, you already know we got your back and we're always going to be there to support you along the way and really do appreciate it. I'm going to send you out on this extremely just earth-shattering question. My guy Gav has been campaigning this forever. Is Kyle Juszczyk potentially going to get that captain's patch? My guy really wants Kyle Juszczyk to be the captain next year. Do you think there's a shot? I mean, he is, in my opinion, the best fullback in the NFL. Does the fullback need a little bit more love around here, or what's it going to take?
Is he worthy of being a captain? The answer is absolutely yes. I think there's nobody that takes care of business as much as Juice is, and nobody. I think Juice is. If you put Debo in a football player category, right? I think Juice is. You can label him a fullback, whatever you want, but our offense tends to go as 44 goes. So I think.
Would you say he's a focal point of the offense in the sense of where he goes
in ways that are not focal to the greater public? For sure, I think he is an engine in which our team runs through, and the things that are asked of him are. You wouldn't probably put on any other player's shoulders in the league. And he's so good. He's so talented. He's so diligent. And he's a great person. Yeah. Should Juice be a captain? Absolutely. I think so. He gets my vote almost every year. I'm not sure what goes on in that regard, but
so he's getting some votes. So we can at least put that on. He's getting some votes.
It's also just like the old adage, like you don't need to wear a C to be a leader on this team. And Kyle,
that's good.
Does that better than anybody, and that's not what motivates us. That's not what motivates him. It's not titles. It's not things. It's just being as good as you can be at your craft, and that's why he is captain material, in my opinion.
Of course, Mike, absolutely appreciative of you. Again, this is our second conversation, and I enjoy it every time. Hopefully it's not our last. I really do appreciate. I mean, I took an hour and 10 minutes of your time.
All good.
I really do appreciate it. Um, I'm gonna kick around with the folks. We're gonna kind of chop it up, but again, feel free. You're off the hook now, Mike. So I appreciate it, man, and I look forward to the year, what's coming, and I look forward to seeing you in training camp, man. I really do appreciate your time.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate you, man. Go
Of
Niners,
course,
bud.
man. Let's go. Appreciate you, man. Whoa, let's go. Shout out, Mike. We gotta get that's sourdough Mike right there. That's sourdough Mike. Uh, that was awesome. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I took advantage at the time. I took him, I took him to the limit. So I appreciate Mike so much. I mean, like he did not have to give me that much time. Um, I mean, again, we went long. So I appreciate Mike so much. Again, Mike is on the way back to being a very important piece for the San Francisco 49ers this year and for the future to come. Um, I love what he said about the offensive line. I love how he mentioned kind of talking about how like, you know, when it's the obvious situation, that's when you're judged on like your like true grit and like what you're really about. Because when it's third and long, 3rd and 10, all that good stuff, and you got Von Miller breathing down your neck, and he knows it's a pass and he's gonna get after, he's gonna throw all his best moves at you, and you got to be locked in, ready to go. Um, I love that. I'm not gonna lie, gave me a little goosebumps when he was talking about that. But again, kind of just to recap, um, by by everything that Mike's talking about, feels like Mike is headed in the right direction. Again, we had a lot of conflicting information when the injury had first occurred, and I'll be honest, I was a little scared by like some of the things that we had heard. But Mike made me feel a whole lot better. Um, he made me feel a whole lot better in regards to his return, his progress. Again, very similar vibes to when we spoke to Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw, like, yeah, it's been a process, and going through injury is more than just physical. I would argue that going through a severe injury is damn near just as impactful from a mental side of things. So I I am just really happy to hear how he's progressing. Sounds like we'll see him in training camp. In what capacity? We'll find out. Um, Someone says, "Who's the next guest interview?" Um, I got two this week. So, but if you want to find out who else will be on the show? Again, two starters. So we just got done with Mike. And again, shout out to Mike, absolute 49ers legend. Absolutely appreciate his time. I love chopping it up with Mike. He deserves so much respect from this fan base. Obviously, he doesn't get it all the time. But I think he's one of the good guys and uh, deserves that a level of respect from this fan base. So I'll always be a champion for Mike. I think people like that deserve to be fought for, if that makes sense. But we'll have two more guys coming on this week. Uh, I'd say tune in to the State of the Franchise episode tomorrow with Jason Aponte. Um, I'll tell you there. So if you guys want to figure out the two other players that we're going to have on the channel this week, tune in to the State of the Franchise tomorrow, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, and we'll drop the two players that are going to be on this week. But again, very great. I'm just can't thank Mike enough. The gratitude that I have for him, his support to my channel, to my page for years. Again, uh, just very thankful for Mike, and just really happy to hear his progress. I do want to again, I do want to apologize if I didn't get to your super chat. It's again, it's my second player interview on YouTube, so it's kind of a process. Obviously, you guys asked a bunch of great questions. Um, I gotta I gotta fine tune the balance of pulling up a super chat and staying in flow, kind of like with my interview structure. So I apologize if I didn't get your super chat. I appreciate everyone who sent a super chat. I try to get them in each and every time. So I apologize if I didn't get to your super chat. Again, we thank you guys so much for the donations. It of course helps the channel immensely. But again, I do appreciate all you guys. What were some of your guys' takeaways? Drop it in the chat. Let's kind of turn this into a conversation. What did you guys think? Do you feel a little bit more optimistic about the offensive line moving forward? What were some of your guys' big takeaways? No, hey, I'm not gonna lie, Jesse. I was like, "Where's Jesse?" I'm not gonna lie, Jesse. I was talking to Mike. I was like, I've not seen Jesse pop up in the chat. Where's Jesse and wifey? I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking about you, my guy. Not gonna lie. I was thinking about you. I was like, dang. Oh, we got detail missed it too. I was expecting detail in the chat as well. All good. All good. You guys know you can rewatch it, you son of a guns. Uh, but you guys, you two are my guys. And again, anyone else who missed, I think we're missing out on DJ. We're missing out on a couple sourdough boys, but we got a lot of the squad in here. Shout out Mod Squad. Based on what I saw from the chat looked pretty vibey. Chat looks pretty vibey. So I gotta shout out the gotta shout out the Mod Squad. Um, you guys were on point today. So that is something that I do appreciate. Um, so overall, man, really, really good chat with Mike. Again, he gave us a ton of time. So my guy says, I want to give a shout out to Brad for being a master of multitasking. When I say ADHD can be a positive, this is one of those times. Trying to listen to Mike, read comments and super chats, formulate how I'm figuring it into the conversation without absolutely it's yeah, I'm still learning. So I appreciate you guys for everything. You guys are phenomenal. It was a great conversation. Uh, very excited about it. Loved what he said about Javon Kinlaw. Um, loved how those two guys have been leaning on each other. Two guys that have become really good friends throughout this process, both rehabbing at the same time, going through, surgeries, rehabbing together, all that kind of stuff. So that is really cool to hear. It's really cool to hear about Trey Lance. Trey clearly is built for it. So regardless of all the things that we hear outside, it does feel like Trey has been able to kind of take more of a leadership role, kind of a guy who's able to step in now that, at least for at the moment, it's his room, and kind of do what he needs to do. And obviously, like I said, Mike was one of the first guys to meet Trey in that building. So he got to see Trey right like day one, got to meet him. Again, Mike's always around the building. and was able to kind of, talk a little bit further about his progression and things like that. Tracy, I'll ban him for you guys. I'll ban him for you guys. Uh, I think that was the only thing that I saw in the chat was Tracy was acting up per usual. I don't see him, to be honest with you. So maybe maybe one of you guys blocked him already. But I don't see him. So again, really, really appreciative of Mike. I can't say it enough. Really, really appreciative of his journey, of all the work he's putting in. Again, I had no idea he was hurt all year. I had no idea Mike McGlinchey was hurt all year, and that started in training camp. And he played the entire season with this essential, I don't know if it was a tear or like it progressed into a tear, but he was like, man, after week 1, after Detroit, I was feeling it. And it affected how he played in the sense of what he could do. But being a football player, being an offensive line mentality, you know what it is. You got to go out there and do your job regardless of any little nicks and bruises you feel. And those types of things aren't taken into consideration when evaluating play. The fact that he was hurt all year and playing well, like he played good. Like, and you guys know, I try to tell people that all the time. I'm like, and to the point that he talks about, people focus on penalties and when you make a mistake, but there's so many other positive plays to take away from. He was playing well. He's playing at a really high level, in my opinion, based on the things that I know about offensive line, what I was seeing from him. Again, doesn't have to be a pancake for you to get a W as an offensive lineman. So he was getting a lot of W's last year. He was stacking lots of W's, and he was getting better as just like everyone else, last season. And it's just unfortunate the time in which he went down. But again, by all accounts, sounds like McGlinchey will be in camp. We'll be ready to ride. So really, really excited about that one. Again, apologize if I did not get to your super chat. I appreciate you guys so much for sending those my way. And again, try to fit them in as organically as possible. But I do apologize if I didn't get to them or whatever. So just wanted to make sure you guys are heard and seen. Don't want to make it feel like I was ignoring any of your guys' super chats, and I do miss them sometimes. So Gav got his question in, so he's very excited about that. We got your juice question in, Gav. You heard it here first. Mike McGlinchey votes for Kyle Juszczyk as captain. So we'll see if the fullback gets it this year. Again, he's deserving. But again, thank you to all the Sourdough Squad. Thank you to everyone who tapped in. Appreciate all the support as always on the page. Appreciate all the Sourdough Squad. All the SDS was real vibey today. So I really, really do appreciate you guys. The vibes mean a lot to these shows. So thank you so much for keeping the energy up, asking great questions, all the good stuff. So you guys are just a part of this interview. As me and Mike, I like to look at this thing as we are a real community. So when you guys are vibey, we're vibey. So I do appreciate you guys. It's a lot of fun. I'll probably do an Instagram live just to say what's up after this. But yeah, I think that will be it. Again, peace to all the homies. State of the franchise tomorrow with the Ponte, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. 2 players left on the schedule this week. So 2 more players going to be on this channel. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit the noties. That way you don't miss. You don't miss. So 2 more players coming this week. And we'll let you know tomorrow. We'll let you know tomorrow. So make sure you tap in for State of the Franchise, and we'll go from there. Appreciate you guys as always.